Good morning, everybody, and thank you, Wayne, for the invitation to speak to you this morning at the start of this conference. I know I won't be alone today in saying that we are so very fortunate in Guernsey to have such a vibrant and hard-working third sector, providing support to the islanders and beyond, and across every area of our community. So much of what counts as island life would not happen without the amazing contribution you all make. And this not only includes the charities themselves, but the different funding organisations, the AGC for its structured support and knowledge, and the many, 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 many volunteers. It really is an island-wide effort. After all, I think in many respects, charities are the living expression of what we say are our social values. They step in when systems fall short, where needs are urgent, and where compassion must be swift. Whether it's supporting vulnerable children, caring for the elderly, aiding those with disabilities, or responding to crises, charities embody the spirit of the social charter in action. Charities remind us that justice is not only about laws, it's about humanity, that equity is not only about policy, it is about access, and dignity is not only about rights, it is how we treat one another. And in many ways, charities are the bridge between aspiration and reality. They foster that sense of community and solidarity with one another. They bring people together through volunteering, fundraising, shared causes, strengthening social bonds and civic engagement. But they cannot do it alone. A thriving charitable sector requires support, not just financial but structural. Relevantly to this conference, it requires collaboration with government, with businesses, with civil society and with one another. When I first became involved with the third sector as a fresh-faced advocate, working with Roger Perot, coincidentally, when Sir Davic Carey impressed upon me and my colleagues when we were called to the bar about the importance of advocates supporting the third sector, although it wasn't called it back then. As a consequence, I served time on boards of a number of charities, both big and small, as well as taking the lead on my firm's CSR committee, as well as having, as we all have done, run, swum, walked, begged, scooted, to name but a few of the charitable causes. But since becoming Deputy Bailiff, I have had the honour of being appointed patron of a number of charities, some of whom I see here today, as well as having the privilege through my role of getting to know many more charities and the work that you do. And this means I have had the opportunity to observe what has changed since my first foray into Guernsey's third sector. First, which I know you will all know, is that compliance and regulatory demands have increased significantly. And this takes many forms, whether it's the need to file returns, information to open bank accounts, the need to comply with increased level of legislation, be it data protection, tax, employment, as well as the requirements of the charities legislation. The list goes on. And whilst some of this existed when I first got involved, it was fair to say there was, for want of a better description, a more relaxed attitude as to what was needed to comply. It was I've put best endeavours, I'm going to change that to reasonable endeavours approach. The need to ensure rules are followed more fully is now so much greater. The penalties can be harsh, and the need to be able to demonstrate compliance is required. Secondly, the competition for funding is now much greater. Even for charities providing the same service that they may have been provided for 5, 10, even 15 years, the cost of provision has got higher. Some of this is because of compliance costs, but some of this is staff costs, some of it is inflation. Charities increasingly need to raise more funds just to stand still. Therefore, charities need to persuade businesses or funders they are worth supporting, and they need to be able to demonstrate they are more worthy of support in comparison to an alternative charity, which may also be seeking funds. And the third element, and of course the most important element, is people, or to be more accurate, the skills people have. In the past, drive and energy and makeup of boards of charities were in large part individuals who had a real passion for the charity. It may have been driven by their own experience or that of a close family member or friend. Or they may have seen a need not met by the state, and that drove them and like-minded islanders to set up a charity. The third sector support we take for granted now would not have existed without that drive and passion and doggedness. But I think all of us who have been involved with charities will know that whilst those features of passion and dedication are vital, the need to be more professional, for want of a better term, is, whether we like it or not, an increased necessity in the third sector. Enthusiasm is not enough. And ultimately, this means the people on the boards. The boards need people able to deal with finance, with HR, perhaps charity-specific expertise with governance, the increasing need to do risk assessments, prepare business plans, data protection compliance, the list goes on, and the challenge is real. As John Clacy said in July 2024 in the IOD event, it is the regulatory requirements which have been introduced in this island primarily to benefit the finance industry, which in turn has created the bureaucracy for our third sector as they strive to provide essential services for our community. But for that same reason, we have a lot of people with skills in these areas. The challenge is to tap into it. The AGC, I know, does a great job in highlighting through its volunteers website what opportunities are available. And in general, the business community is very good at supporting staff who want to contribute. But we all need to think about how we can increase not just the number of people volunteering, but also the amount of support and what support they give. The challenge to charities is they need to reflect on how they can make the roles they need more attractive. And being blunt, for example, this is about when boards meet, that those meetings are efficient and effective. Most people have the skills and expertise that the boards needs, are working, often full-time, or are fully committed to family life, or both. They are very willing, in my experience, to give up time after work to support a board meeting or be involved in the board. But when meetings are longer than are needed, or less focused than needed, the attractiveness of giving up becomes less. This comes back to the need of an almost business-like attitude at boards, even if the charity is not a business in the real sense. Sometimes it can mean closing down some of the passionate rhetoric that can dominate a meeting and getting on with it. Voluntary charitable boards are, for good or for bad, places where the strength of an individual's personality and passion, plus the fact that they are volunteers rather than being an employee or a paid director, can lead to boards being beholden and in the thrall of that individual. Unfortunately, ultimately to the detriment of other volunteers and the good running of that charity. Collaboration between business and charities also helps with another form of collaboration, and that is, of course, tapping into sources of funding. Increasingly, the need to demonstrate how funding will be used and the benefits it is likely to bring and the impact it will have is central to sourcing funding. Charities need to make it as easy as possible for sources of funding to know that they are worth supporting. And thinking about how best you can work with funders will help with chances of success. Sources of fundings for charities, particularly CSR budgets or sponsorship from businesses, have moved from pet projects of partners, which I remember, to ones which require alignment of the overall strategy of the business. It will be of no surprise to you that businesses do not engage in CSR only with altruistic aims, or possibly even any. CSR is viewed as a mechanism to attract and engage employees so they work harder for the business. It's to enhance brand reputation and client loyalty. So for charities to benefit, the CSR committee will expect a charity to align with a company's social commitments and the values of that business. And the committee may have a policy, for example, of only supporting one or two charities, rather than a whole host of charities or supporting charities in a particular sector. If you don't actively collaborate with your sources of income, it doesn't matter how appealing a charity is or how hard you work, you will not be the beneficiaries of that help. And this brings me to one final element of collaboration, and that is between charities. We have well over 300 charities in Guernsey. This is a testament to how much islanders care and are prepared to give back to their community. But that comes at a risk. The risk of duplication, the risk of sustainability in the long term, and the risk of spreading the skills needed to apply with compliance needs too thinly. On this last point, we will all be familiar with the type of negative publicity that follows when charities are found to be in breach of the rules or tied up in scandals. I have in mind the publicity around the Captain Tom Foundation or the Kids Company fiasco. The Captain Tom Foundation is perhaps a particularly important lesson about how a failing by an individual charity has implications for the whole sector, as it shakes the confidence in how charities are run. Few stories captured the community spirit in dealing with the pandemic like that of Captain Sir Tom Moore and his bid to walk 100 laps of his garden before his 100th birthday to support the NHS. It was a beacon of hope, a reminder of the strength of individual action, a beautiful embodiment again of our social charter, the unwritten promise that we care for one another, especially in times of need. Millions donated. There were shared messages of support and celebrations of his efforts. This surge of goodwill reinforced the idea that society thrives when individuals act for the common good. The foundation was created to continue supporting causes close to Captain Tom's heart: loneliness, bereavement and community support. But what followed was sobering. It reminded us that trust, once given, must be honoured, that charity, at its core, must be transparent, accountable and always in the service of the public good. The Charities Commission found repeated misconduct and mismanagement by trustees, and public confidence was shaken. Donors questioned where their money was going, and the reputation of the entire charitable sector was tarnished. The case highlights the importance of transparency, accountability and proper oversight in all charitable organisations. And we are, of course, fortunate in Guernsey that nothing of this nature has occurred, but it puts us on notice that levels of expectations are now far greater than in the past, and that trust in the charitable sectors is its biggest currency. When charities fail, the whole sector is impacted. Charities which collaborate with best practices and lessons learned, with training and development opportunities, and with skills and resources, create a robust and stronger sector. Reinventing the wheel for each individual charity creates a risk every time, whereas when organisations with a common aim work together, they can cut costs, improve outcomes and reduce duplication. But actually, I want to end my talk with a thank you. Being here gives me an opportunity to say on behalf of my fellow islanders, thank you. Thank you so much for all that you do. What you do is so important, not only to those you help, but vital to making Guernsey feel like a community. Thank you for giving up your time, for caring for your fellow islanders, day in, day out, week in, week out, year in, year out. You are no small part of making Guernsey a wonderful place to live, so thank you, and enjoy the rest of this conference.